So in the previous section we created this UI, right? So here now we also added this icon, this favorite icon. Go to the view wallpaper screen. You're going to see the favorite icon, right, that you will tap to add to favorite. So now we want to like create the different things that will be needed for favorite. Add to favorite, delete from favorite, retrieve favorite by ID, and retrieve all favorites. So when you go to favorites here, you should be able to retrieve all your favorited items. Okay, so what I'm going to do here now is just to quickly create I'm going to quickly create a favorite provider, and right here I'm just going to like put all the missing methods, and inside our favorite I'm going to go back to main.dat and quickly register this guy. Okay, so it's going to be our favorite provider. Okay, save that, and then we're going to return back. So right in our favorite, I need to also add like a check, which is more like a getter and a setter. You're going to see how I use this later. And remember, do not forget our other stuffs which are important, which is the view state, because we need to show loading state, right? We need to have like view states, and we also need to have the Firebase user ID, because we need to know who is adding to favorite, right? And we have our collection, which is favorites. We have a loading state, set message. We have view state, which is I do initially, right? Because it's more like I have these guys already. I do success, error, and busy. Okay, so I have this getter and setter here that just says is favorite. Okay, so moving on, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to also create a list, right? So when we are retrieving wallpaper, we should have a list where we are going to store all those wallpapers. Okay, so I have a list here that is saying favorite provider, favorite model, which is the model data of how we want our favorite to look like. Okay, then we have the favorite list, and we also have the favorite getter. Okay, so you're going to see how all these things come into play as we move on, right? So adding to favorite is more like a simple thing. Okay, so the first thing we want to do when we are adding to favorite here is more like to say we're going to first of all set is favorite to true, right? When users click on this icon, like when you click on this icon, this is loading. When you click on this icon to add to favorite, we need to call this method, right? And when we call it, we can just update the state, right? So the UI will be updated, and then we can just await this and then call our favorite. Let me make this private and also make this private. Okay, so I'm going to have like favorite ref, okay, .doc. So I'm going to be using the user ID, the UID of the user, right? So UI.uid, more like me creating a collection with doc that is private to that particular user. Okay, because your favorited item doesn't have to be public to everybody. So we have data, like we can just call it data, right? Another collection. Then we can say .add data, which is this favorite item, right? To JSON, right? Because you cannot just save a map into data Firebase. You need to like convert it to a map, right? So this is the logic for adding to favorite. So now we have to create another one again, which is to delete favorited items. Okay, so also make this async, and to delete favorited item we are going to pass the ID of the favorited item. Okay, so what we are going to do here is to say final. Let's just have our results, and we can say await. Okay, let's say favorites ref. Okay, .doc, just like similar thing that we did here. Okay, so we're just gonna like put this same thing here, .docs. Then we can just say where the ID, right, is equal to ID, right? Then we can now call get, right? So first thing we need to just get that data. So what we are going to do when you want to delete, we can just say the result. We need to check if the result.docs, if it's not empty, right? If it's not empty, what we can do is to say, we can just look through it, right? Okay, where ID is equal to that. So what we can do is just to get the first element, right? We can have the first element result.first. Okay, so with this now we can now call await. Let's just say favorite ref.doc.collection data doc again. Then we can now pass the data.id, right? So the ID part, and then from here we can now say .delete, right? So this is more like what this logic is going to do to delete from the provider. And once we delete, it's going to remove it, right, completely from the database, right? So we are also going to get like another method to retrieve by ID. So retrieving by ID, when we say delete from favorite, we need to set is favorite to false, right? And then we can just call update state. All right, so this is just going to update the UI. Is deleting from favorite is going to be when user clicks on this guy, right? When you click the first time, if it's not available, it's going to add it. When you click the second time, if it's available, it's going to remove it, right? Just like that. Add, remove, right? But I think this logic may not really be what we need to use. So I'll just use a loop here instead, because sometimes you might add, the system might actually save more than. So what we're going to do, because if you notice here, when we are adding, we are not checking if it already exists, right? So you can just delete any instance of it from the data store, right? So now we are going to get retrieve favorite by ID. It's just similar thing with what we already have here, right? I'm going to use our async here, and this guy is going to be like this, okay? And to retrieve, what we are going to do now is just to check if, so this retrieving is going to be based on when user clicks on each of these items, right? And you enter here, we need to check if the wallpaper ID is available, right? If it's not available, we can just say it's favorite false. If it's available, we can say it's favorite is true, right? So what I can do here is to say if results.docs, right, is not empty, right? I'm going to set is favorite to true, right? Then if it's empty, right, I can just set is favorite to false, right? And then we can have our update state. Cool. So that's pretty much it for that guy. Then the last one on this is the search favorited items, right? To view all favorited items. So what I'm going to do here is also going to have my sync here. And remember, we have like so many other things that we have implemented before. So let's say we have this search provider, right? So I'm just going to grab these guys, okay, because it's more like similar stuff. So right here, I'm going to like remove this, paste it here, and then go ahead and remove okay, I don't think it's really necessary to remove this. So I'm just gonna so I'm just gonna remove this and remove this as well. So as you can see, when user trigger retrieve favorite items, right, we are going to set the view state to busy, and then we have our try catch, and the try is where we are definitely going to like, you know, get our data, right, and pass it. Then here, when there's a Firebase exception, we need to return it to the user. When there's an unknown exception, we also need to return it to the user. So here, what I'm going to do here is just to have a result instance, a result variable. So we're going to have like await favorite ref.doc user.id. Then we have collection, which is data. We are more like, you know, trying to like retrieve all those data that we have added before from the collection, right? Then I'm going to have like final. So what we're going to have now is more like to check if the result.docs, okay, if it's not empty, right, then we can just go ahead and pass our data. But if it's empty, what we can do is just to set a favorite list, okay, or think this is not really necessary, okay? So if it's not empty, what I'm going to do here now is more like, first thing, I need to create a temporal list, okay, that is going to hold the data, because this is a model and we need to pass it properly, and Firebase is returning data in form of a map string dynamic, right? So we need to have like a list, and this list is going to be favorite model, okay, and we're going to call this temp list and this, okay. So here now we are going to check if the result is not empty. What I'm going to do is just to loop through. I'm going to loop through the results.docs, and from here I'm going to have like my temp list.add, and then I can say my favorite model, favorite dot from JSON, right? I'm going to have my i.data. Cool. So that's pretty much it, and we have successfully passed our data that is coming from database. So once we get that, we can now assign it to our favorite. Okay, I thought I created a favorite list. Okay, it's actually fine now, so I'm going to grab this. I will move the finder and create a favorite list. I'm going to assign it to this temp list. Cool. So this is pretty much everything we need. You can see we have the add to favorite, delete from favorite, retrieve favorite by ID, retrieve favorite, and we have all the methods to add favorite, delete, and every other thing, right? So everything is looking cool now. So the next thing we are going to do now is to go to our favorite screen, and I want to try to fetch favorites. Okay, before that, let's try to add to favorite. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the favorite screen, right? I'm going to go to the view wallpaper screen rather, and right here what I'm going to do instead is to wrap this guy with a consumer, like wrap our scaffold widget with a consumer, and I'm going to have the favorite provider, right? This is going to be a consumer, and remove this. Let's just have like a favorite, let's say fav state, more like a favorite state. Okay, then what I'm going to do here is to create a busy overlay. I think we don't really need a busy overlay because it's not needed when we are adding. Okay, so let's go back to this guy. Okay, so right here now what I'm going to do is to come to this favorite section. So I'm going to check if the fav state dot is favorite. Remember we created this is favorite getter here. So we're going to check if it's favorite, then return a different icon color and all that. Okay, so right here we're just going to put it here. So we have if the remove this const. So if the fav dot is favorite, we are going to return this icon, right? But if it's not favorite, we are going to return a favorite border, right? You can see now it's not favorite. That's why we have this guy. Okay, so moving on, we need to add to favorite. So first thing we need to do is to check if favorite state dot is favorite. Okay, like if it's already favorited, right? If the user have added it to favorite already. So what we are going to do is to say fav state, right, dot delete from favorite, and the ID is going to be the wallpaper ID, right? Cool. Then else, if the user if it's not favorited already, so what we are going to do is just to have the add to favorite method, and you can see this add to favorite is accepting favorite model, so we can just put the favorite model here, and the ID is definitely going to be the widget, the ID of the wallpaper, right? Because you can see we are deleting based on ID. We are also going to do the same thing for wallpaper. Then for the image, we are definitely going to pass the wallpaper ID so that to make everything look simple and good. So for the image, we are going to pass the URL of the image, right? And for dates created, remember I like using date time to milliseconds, right? So that way we can actually datetime.now.milliseconds is mph, so that way we can actually pass it from whichever place that we are listening to it. Okay, so this is pretty much it. I'm going to save that, and if I go back, let's say I return here and click on this favorite, you can see now it's actually showing that check, right? If I go back and if I come back, you can see it's still showing that check. Even though I go to other items that I did not add to favorite, it's still showing the check, which is not supposed to, right? And if you check our Firebase, you will notice that the favorite has also been added. So I'm going to go back to that Firebase. Hold on. So here now, the reason why you will now understand the reason why we added this method to retrieve favorite by ID, which is pretty much what we are going to be doing now. So if we go back here, you can see favorites has been added, right? And give it some seconds, some minutes to load, and we have our UID, right? We have the data, then from the data we have the ID of the favorite. This is generated by Firebase. They can see the wallpaper ID. We also have the wallpaper image. We have the date that the wallpaper was created. Okay, so now moving on, we need to, like, when user come here, for items that are not added to favorite, it doesn't have to show this icon. So what I'm going to do here now is to come to our init state, right? So inside here, I'm going to call that fetch favorite. Whenever user open this screen for the first time, in the init state, I'm going to call the favorite provider. So I'm going to check first if widget is local file. So if it's not a local file, then we can just go ahead and fetch this guy, right? For local file, we don't need to fetch it, to just. So we can now retrieve favorite by ID. We pass the widget wallpaper ID. And here, if it exists, we can just set his favorite to true, rather, or we set it to false. So save this guy. So now for those items that we did not add to favorite, like this one, so I'm going to go back here. You can see once it fetches, all right, nothing happened. If result dot is not empty, if true, else false, update state. Okay, so this is not working and it's not showing any error. All right, I think it worked. So, but it did not, looks like it did not update. Let's go back to this one that we added before to favorite. I don't know if it was this one, but it looks like it's not displaying immediately. Which one was the one we added to favorite? I can't remember. All right, okay, so let's start from the beginning. So this one now, let's add it to favorites. Okay, then let's go back, open another one that we did not add to favorite, and see if that stuff will still be ticked. So it's still showing, so that means something is wrong, and it's only working when we save, which is not supposed to. So I think what needs to be done here is let me go to the one that we favorited. It also did not show except I saved, so it's not supposed to be like that. So the issue is definitely coming from here. So let's try to do this to be, we're going to set it to be false, right, initially, right? So if it's available, okay, we're going to set it to true. Then I think let's try to use notify listener here directly and see if that works. So we're going to save it, and let me go back and I'll enter. Now this one was added, right, to favorite, and you can see it's moving, and this one is working real time, so it's not having that lagging as the other ones. Okay, so yeah, we can move with this, so you can just modify your code base to look like this and everything will look good, right? So the next thing we have is to retrieve the wallpapers, right? So we have that logic already. So this is the logic to retrieve wallpapers, like our favorited items. Okay, so now if you look at our favorite list, you will notice that we have two items inside our favorite list. Okay, so let me just reload this. So while it's reloading, we can go on and write the logic to view wallpapers, okay, to view favorites. So what I'm going to do here now is to go to our favorite screen, okay, and the first thing I'm going to do is to wrap this guy with a consumer widget, and then I'm going to put the favorite provider, right? So let's have our consumer, and I'm going to remove this, and this is going to be the fave state, right? I'll just have our child, right? So I'm also going to add like a busy overlay, so something needs to show while it's loading. So I'm going to say show, so fave state dot view state is equal to view state dot busy, right? All right, while we have that, the next thing we are going to do now is to check if the view state is loading to show the other recent, the error and all that. So I'm going to put that inside here, right? So this is going to be the view state, right? The favorite state, right? So if it's loading or if it's empty, we are going to show no recent wallpaper. But if data is available, we are just going to go ahead and show the data, right? So what we are going to do here now is that I'm going to change this guy now to fav state dot favorite list, right? The length. And also let's remove the let's uncomment this, and we are going to have the fav state dot favorite list, right? Is to replace this data to data dot the wallpaper image, right? Save it up, and though it's not showing anything, that's because we have not fetched any data yet, right? Then the next thing I'm going to do now is to route users. When they click on the favorite item, it's going to take them to the view categories, the view image screen, more like this screen here, right? So what I'm going to do is to here now is more like to add the same thing we did for the home. I think I'll just quickly locate that. So the home screen, we have this, right? So what I'm going to do here is just to add these guys. So let's go back one step and put this here. So basically I'm going to remove one. So we have the show icon through, because we are going from favorite to the other screen. It needs to show the icon. Then we have the wallpaper ID, which is going to be data.id. And we have the category name. I think this category name is not really necessary. Okay, then we have the wallpaper image, which is the wallpaper image. All right, then moving on, we are also going to like push the user to that screen. Okay, so that's not all, because we need to fetch this data, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a new remember what we did in the previous sections, like the home screen. We were able to call these guys, right? So I'm going to copy this, come here, and let's go here. I'm just going to create a method to fetch recent wallpaper. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to change this to view favorite. Okay, and this is going to be the favorite provider, and here you can now call fetch get fetch. Okay, let me check what the name is. Okay, retrieve favorites. Okay, so we are going to replace it with retrieve favorites and make sure you show message when there's an error. So what is happening here is whenever user clicks on this screen, and then let's say we are going to await this actually, whenever users open the view screen, right, and then maybe they remove the check. Okay, I'm going to show you later. Let me just skip that one for now. So here I'm just going to call the init state, and so we're going to call this whenever users enters the screen for the first time, right? So what happens here is that I'm going to go to my settings, right? I'm now going to return back to the favorite. You can see it's loading, and now we have the two favorited items, right? So let's say users click here now, right? It's favorited, and users go here to it's favorited. Watch what happens. If I go here and then tap on this guy to remove it from favorite, if I return back, nothing happens, right? It's still showing, because by default we don't want it to show, right? We need to like get it cleared from this favorite list. The only time that it will get cleared is when we move out and then come back again into that screen, which is not what I want. So I'll just go on and add that guy back to favorites. Okay, and so now what I'm going to do is whenever users, that's why I use this async and await, right? Whenever users come back to the screen, I'm just going to call the view favorite method, so it's going to refetch it again. So see what happens. Let's work with this image. I'm going to remove it, right, and then come back again. You can see now it has loaded, and now the data has been removed. If we remove this one and come back, you can see it has loaded, and in real time the data are going off and the data are also showing in real time, which is pretty much amazing. So guys, this is what I wanted you guys to know about adding to favorites, retrieving data from favorites, viewing favorite by ID, and also to delete favorited items. Okay, so in the next video we are going to be looking at something different, which is going to be to download and apply our wallpaper. Okay, and I might be converting this into, I might be using my physical device, right, like my Android, to be able to apply the wallpaper. All right.